Modern life has taught us a quiet habit. When we struggle, we look outside ourselves for the answer. We medicate discomfort. We optimize behavior. We scroll for relief. And slowly, we hand our attention. From above, the city glows, not as streets and buildings, but as a circuit, alive with signals, running on borrowed power. Neuroscience is beginning to notice something unexpected. The brain is not broken. It is simply undercommanded. There is a switch, not chemical, not technological, but cognitive. The belief that you are in control. Watch what happens when one person pauses. The noise freezes. The notifications fall silent. A single breath enters the body, and for the first time, it is chosen. Inside the mind, the prefrontal cortex lights up. Fear quiets. Focus returns. The system wakes. Practices once called mystical are now measured, mapped, and tested. Breath, attention, stillness, ancient tools, meeting modern science, reshaping neural pathways in real time. This is not escape, it is authorship. When we stop outsourcing our agency, the strings dissolve, the brain reorganizes, connections widen, possibility expands, like galaxies forming where limits used to be. You move through the same world, but no longer as a passenger. You are directing the signal. Because the most powerful technology on Earth was never an app, or a pill, or a system. It was installed in you from the beginning. Human agency, the antidote for everything. An Esoteric Lore limited podcast series. The greatest transformation does not arrive from the future. It activates from within.
There is a moment just before the hand reaches for the drink, just before scrolling becomes an hour of scrolling, just before the decision makes itself. And in that moment, something ancient and something biological collide. It is you choosing, or is it your brain already deciding? This is the story of addiction, not as weakness, but as hijacking. And the forgotten force that can take it back.
Segment 1: What addiction really is, not what people think.
Let's strip this down. Addiction is not just a bad habit, just a lack of discipline, or just poor choices. Addiction is a learned, reinforced neurochemical loop that overrides conscious control. At the center of this is the dopamine system, the basal ganglia, habit circuits, and the prefrontal cortex, your agency center. Here's the loop. Here's how it works out. Number 1, a trigger. Number 2, a craving, the dopamine spike. Number 3, the behavior. Number 4, the reward or relief. And number 5, the reinforcement. Repeat that loop enough times, and the brain stops asking for permission.
Segment 2: The hijacking of the brain.
In addiction, something profound happens. The prefrontal cortex, that's you, weakens. The limbic system, that's the urge center, strengthens. This means less impulse control, less future thinking, more emotional reactivity, faster automatic behavior. In simple terms, the part of you that chooses goes offline. Addiction is not just wanting something. It is the inability to pause between impulse and action.
Segment 3: Dopamine is not pleasure.
This is where most people misunderstand everything. Dopamine is not happiness, fulfillment. or satisfaction. Dopamine is the anticipation, motivation, and pursuit. Addiction rewires dopamine so that anticipation becomes intense, satisfaction becomes weak, craving becomes constant. The result? You chase harder and feel less.
Segment 4: The Loss of Agency.
Now we arrive at the real cost. Not health, not reputation, not even your relationships. Those are consequences. The real loss is agency. Because agency is the ability to interrupt a pattern. And addiction destroys that interruption.
Segment 5: Where Agency Still Lives.
Here's the part most people never hear. Even in addiction, agency is not gone. It's just compressed into a smaller and smaller window. That window is the moment before action, a fraction of a second, a breath, a pause. Let's talk about the neuroscience of the pause. When you pause, even briefly, the prefrontal cortex reactivates. Limbic urgency drops slightly. Awareness increases. Choice becomes possible when you pause. You've arrived at that intersection of action and alternative. The pause is not spiritual fluff. It is a neurological reset point.
Segment 6: Rebuilding Agency.
You don't beat addiction with willpower alone. You rebuild agency through, number one, pattern recognition. This is the loop. Number two, micro pause. Micro pauses, even 2 to 5 seconds, changes your brain activation. Number three, breath control. Directly regulates your nervous system. Fourthly, environmental design. Remove the triggers, reduce your loop activation. And number five, repetition. Agency is trained, not declared. You don't need to win the whole battle. You just need to interrupt the next loop. That's the secret.
Segment 7: Agency versus Dependency.
Let's reframe our original idea in a more powerful way. Addiction says, do this now. Agency says, wait. Addiction is speed. Agency is interruption. Whoever controls the space between impulse and action controls the life. You may not control the cravings, you may not control the urge, you may not control your thoughts. But there is still a moment, a thin, fragile, but powerful moment when something inside you can say, not yet. Not yet. And in that moment, you are no longer controlled. You are the one who has chosen. As always, I leave you with a poem. The space between. They told you it was weakness, that you just couldn't stop, that something is in you was broken somewhere beneath the thoughts. But they never showed you the wiring, the circuits lit in flame, how craving learns your rhythm and whispers in your name. They never told you the truth that your brain can be captured, that patterns can grow so loud they begin to sound like you. So you reach, not because you're lost, but because the signal has been rehearsed too many times. Again and again and again. But listen, there's a moment they forget to mention. A quiet fracture in time, so small you've missed it 1,000 times, just before the hard move towards an action, just before you scroll, just before the choice chooses itself. There, that space, that breath, that hesitation you almost ignored is not nothing. It is everything. Because in that space, the storm is not yet the storm. The urge is not yet the action. The pattern is not yet complete. And you are not yet controlled. You don't need to silence the cravings. You don't need to win the war. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to do one thing. Pause. Pause. And the mind remembers itself. Pause. And the noise loses its authority. Pause, and something ancient rises back up through the circuitry and the chaos. The one who chooses, not perfectly, not every time, not all at once, but once is enough to begin. Because every time you interrupt the loop, you weakened what once ruled you. Every time you hesitate to reclaim a piece of your mind, every time you pause, you prove that you are still there. Not the craving, not the pattern, not the past, you. So when the moment comes again, and it will, and the voice says, now, you answer back, wait. And in that single word, spoken in silence, you take back your life.
There's a moment after you hear something true when it lands in your body. Not as an idea, but as a decision. I don't want to keep living on autopilot. Because autopilot isn't weakness, it's your nervous system running fast patterns under pressure. That's why smart people still snap, scroll, avoid, and repeat. Here's the reframe that matters. You are not your reactions. A reaction is a surge. You are the one who can interrupt it. Not by calming down perfectly, but by creating a small gap. A pause, seconds of space where choice becomes possible. That's also why insight alone doesn't change behavior. Under stress, knowledge disappears. Skills don't. Skills are trained. The Agency Academy book gives you the blueprint. It explains what's happening and where your leverage actually is. The Pause app is the training ground. It helps you practice in real moments when it's hard. If you're tired of reacting, go to iwillpause.com. Start training, claim the book, and choose differently in the next moment that matters.
If you like this video, please subscribe, share, and give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.